How many kids are in the house, Mrs. Philpott? Where are they?
6 of them.
Sorry?
6 of them.
Flowers and toys to remember children killed as they slept.
The fire started, police believe, when petrol was poured through the letterbox.
The police are saying this is a potential murder investigation.
On May 11th, 2012, while most families in Derby were asleep, one house filled with petrol and flames, and by sunrise, 6 children would be dead. At first, police said the fire didn't look accidental, but what shocked investigators even more was that this tragedy didn't begin with a fire. It began years earlier, inside a deeply broken home.
And very soon he would start to control them.
Back in 2000, 19-year-old Mairead Duffy had just come out of an abusive relationship when she met a man who seemed like her savior at first, Mick Philpott. But people who already knew Mick understood something Mairead didn't. Trouble followed him everywhere he went. Not long after their first child was born, Mick proposed to Mairead right there in the hospital, and soon they moved in together. In 2002, something happened that even neighbors found strange. Mick moved his 16-year-old lover, Lisa Willis, into the same house he shared with Mairead. Surprisingly, Lisa and Mairead became very close, and in May 2003, when Mick and Mairead got married, Lisa even stood beside them as a bridesmaid.
Mairead married Mick in 2003.
Will you take Mairead Caroline to be your wife? Will you love her, comfort her, honour her?
He's 7 months pregnant with Mick's child on his wedding day.
But even at the wedding, Mick's behavior raised eyebrows. Mairead's father later described it like this.
I went myself to give her away and that there. Went to a wedding, and then there was a reception held in a club on Elton Road when we came back and that there. And there was quite a few people there and that. You know, they're kind of one crowd sitting here of a family and another family sitting somewhere else kind of thing.
And Mick's violent behavior wasn't new. Years earlier, in July 1978, when he was serving in the army, his girlfriend Kim Hill ended their relationship through a letter. Mick's response was brutal, something that would repeat later in his life.
He'd flatter them, they would be attracted to him because he gave them the attention, maybe attention they didn't have before in their life, and very quickly he would get them on side, he'd move them in, and very soon he would start to control them.
He was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison, but got out after just over 3 years in 1986 because of so-called good behavior. Over the years, both Mairead and Lisa had children with him, and eventually 11 kids were living in the same home. 3 adults and 11 children packed into a small 3-bedroom house.
My understanding is it's quite a harmonious house, although congested because you had 11 children in there at one stage plus 3 adults, hence Mick having a caravan outside the front of the house that he would live in and sleep in, and in his own words, alternate nights he'd have a different woman in there, whether it was his mistress or whether it was Mairead.
From outside, everything looked normal. The kids looked happy and well-dressed, but inside, things were very different, and within just a few years, this unstable household would explode into one of the most disturbing family tragedies Britain had seen in decades.
It was all well looked after, all fed. You could walk past and you'd see them all in the window, you know, bouncing around the settees, or they was on the street playing football, and you know, they was always happy. They never wanted for nothing.
Soon, the family's situation started drawing attention locally. Mick often contacted media, presenting himself as a victim who needed a bigger house, hoping to get more support from the welfare system.
He has absolutely no compunction in doing anything to hurt somebody else. We know this because he's, hurt multiple partners in the past, and he has absolutely no remorse. This makes him dangerous because he has no ability to really see somebody else's perspective. And because he has no ability to see somebody else's perspective and no remorse, this is not going to stop him when he starts hurting somebody else.
But his plan didn't work. After After 2 more children were born and it became public that he was receiving around £25,000 a year in benefits, tabloids labelled him Britain's biggest scrounger. Once Mairead was deep in this relationship, control slowly took over her life. Money, work, where she could go, who she could talk to, even small things like shopping.
He will control every aspect of a partner's life. The finances, where they work, where they live, who they see, everything about them. I think his extreme narcissism is also coming from a potential position of fear. He doesn't ever want to be left. He can't tolerate any rejection, and he's got a very sensitive sense of self. And in the course of his life, unfortunately, multiple people get hurt in order for him to operate the way he does.
Outside, Mairead still looked cheerful and social, but people noticed that every time she returned home, her mood completely changed.
Both of them started families with Mick, and it got to a stage where there were 11 children living in the house.
Mick even asked Mairead 3 different times to divorce him so he could marry Lisa. In 2010, police gave him a caution after he slapped Mairead and dragged her outside by her hair. And Lisa also suffered abuse. He hit her with wood, threw hot coffee at her, and stopped her from leaving or talking to other men. In February 2012, things shifted. Lisa finally managed to escape with her children. Mick was furious and soon filed for custody, with a court hearing scheduled just months later. That's when Mick, Mairead, and a family friend named Paul Mosley came up with a shocking plan. They would set fire to their own home while the children were inside and make it look like Lisa had done it. The idea was that Mosley would pour petrol through the letterbox and start the fire. Then Mick would heroically rescue the kids and win sympathy and the custody case. But things didn't go as planned.
Flowers and toys to remember children killed as they slept.
The fire started, police believe, when petrol was poured through the letterbox.
The police are saying this is a potential murder investigation.
In May 11th, 2012, just hours before the court hearing, around 4 a.m., neighbors woke up to the smell of petrol and the sound of glass shattering. Flames were already shooting out of number 18 Victory Road, and within seconds, flames tore through the hallway, trapping the children upstairs, while thick smoke filled their bedrooms as they slept.
And then I seen about a foot-high flame coming from the front door, and I just knew whose house it was straight away.
My brother's waking up frantically, and to me it sounded like saying it was a fire. You know, because I was still off asleep, I've got up thinking the fire was actually in our house. But when I heard him say, no, Mick's house, look out the window.
And I just seen somebody stood on the front, female, dressed, and said, where's Mick, where's the kids? In the house.
Neighbors rushed over, trying desperately to get inside and rescue the 6 children sleeping upstairs. Some tried kicking doors, others shouted for the kids, but the heat and smoke pushed everyone back. But between the chaos, something stuck with many of them. The parents were standing outside, just watching without any emotions. One neighbor later said, "At first I thought they were in shock, but then I realized something felt very wrong."
They both looked scared, because they knew they'd made the ultimate If you're going to do a move like that, whether it's to get back at your ex-partner that's left you, your girlfriend, so you've not got a girlfriend and a wife no more, you get the kids out of the house. Whether it's to get a bigger house, you get the kids out of the house. Make them set their aunties. You know, you don't set fire to the pissing house with the kids in it thinking you can stop it. You can't. You know, he looked shocked, mate, and that's what struck me. You know, and he knew, I've known him for years, and he looked in my eyes and I knew, you know, I've got your ticket here, mate.
The fire spread too quickly. 5 children died at the scene from smoke inhalation. Their older brother Duane, who had suffered severe burns, fought for his life in hospital, but sadly, 2 days later, he died too. On May 14th, police confirmed petrol poured through the letterbox had started the fire, launching a murder investigation. Lisa Willis, who had a custody hearing scheduled that same morning, was initially arrested but quickly released without charge. Meanwhile, people across the community raised money to help the family. But many noticed something unsettling. Mick and Mairead didn't behave like parents who had just lost 6 children. They avoided talking about the kids, didn't visit their injured son in hospital, and just a week after the fire, calmly visited a neighbor who had tried to rescue the children. He later said, "If I'd lost 6 kids, I wouldn't even be able to walk straight after a week." But they were calm, even smiling. During a police press conference, the couple publicly thanked people for their support and asked for privacy. But their behavior only increased suspicion. Mick acted strangely, even behaving inappropriately toward a female officer, and never once mentioned his children by name. Later, psychologists said he seemed to try to cry, but couldn't. Even his nose stayed dry.
And of course, the 4 firemen, the police, the ambulances, the doctors, the nurses, literally everybody who tried to help save our children, they couldn't.
To me it was a show because I couldn't see a tear. I never heard a mention of the children or find out who done this to my children. And I thought to myself, what's wrong with the man? 6 children are dead.
So he's wiping tears away, but he forgets that when you cry, your tears go down the inside of your nose and you have to wipe your nose as well. He's not quite worked that out, and so he wipes his eyes but forgets to wipe his nose.
Months later, investigators found a discarded petrol container and gloves near the house, and forensic tests showed petrol traces on the clothes of Philpott and Mosley. Police then bugged the hotel room where they were staying. Recordings captured Mick and Mairead discussing what story to tell police, saying things like, "Did they believe how much you cried?" and "We're sticking to the same story, right?"
So, tell me what you said to him then. What you said about how many times you went up the ladders.
I lost count how many times I went up the ladders.
What did you say about me trying to go in?
You tried everything you could to get in, like I said to him, I wanted to run through the flames.
Those recordings became key evidence. On May 28th, police arrested Mick and Mairead on suspicion of murder, and later, Paul Mosley was arrested as well. Eventually, charges were reduced to manslaughter after investigators concluded they hadn't intended to kill the children. Philpott received a life sentence, while Mairead and Mosley were each sentenced to 17 years in prison. 6 children died in a fire started by the very people meant to protect them, all because of a selfish attempt to gain more benefits and housing support. And in the end, the biggest victims were the children who never even had a chance to escape. Now the question remains, do you think justice was fully served here? Or should the system have been stricter?